Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the complete fourth season of The Simpsons on DVD, which in this review, as ever, we shall be going over the packaging for the set, as well as discussing each individual episode one by one, delivering my overall thoughts on the season. And so this is a 4-disc set containing 22 episodes in total, and these episodes ranged from the years 1992 through to 1993. And this box set in particular is honestly very heavily nostalgic to me. This was the first ever Simpsons DVD box set I ever picked up, and I got this when I was a lot younger from a store called Virgin Megastores, which closed down a very long time ago. And so obviously I've had this in the collection for many years. And as far as the episodes go, this is a great collection of episodes, a huge compendium of classics as I would term it, with episodes like Mr. Plow, Marge versus the Monorail as an example, Treehouse of Horror 3, loads of great episodes that I can't wait to discuss in further detail. Anyhow, before we get to the episodes, here's a look at the overall box set design. So the artwork for this particular set is themed around sort of a house party kind of thing. So there's some of the characters there inside the TV set with Snowball chewing the wire and having a nasty little accident as it would be. And there's these spines there with Lisa and Grandpa on one side and Homer and Krusty on the other. Here's the inside with a rat electrocuting itself on the internal components of the telly there. And you can also, as ever, swap the inside photo over inside the TV set, so if you wanted to go for the more basic image, you can do so. So opening this up, here is the inside artwork. So we have a note from Matt Groening, as ever, which was present in the first 5 seasons printed in the box set. And then more of this sort of house party kind of theme going on, like I said before. And some more artwork there with Santa's Little Helper. And here is your episode guide and your 4 DVD discs, which have some alternate artwork beneath them, like so. Disc 3 is a pain for my box set in particular because the disc popper is pretty much broken, so this just sits loosely there. And I think I've replaced this disc before as well. The original disc 3 that I had was stuck in my grandma's TV, since it was a DVD TV combo, and I never got that one back, so at least I was able to replace it, I suppose. So there's the alternate artwork from under there, and for disc 4, there you go. So with the artwork out of the way, let us go through the episode guide and we shall discuss the episodes in further detail. And so here is the episode guide, which just before we delve into the episodes, I just thought I'd give a brief look at the bonus features that are included on this DVD set. So for disc 1, you've got your basic standard intro from Matt Groening just summarising the season in general. And then from there you've got your audio commentaries, deleted scenes, animatics, animation showcases, bonus commercials, just your standard stuff, and overall some great features on this season in particular. So getting to disc 1, we have 4 episodes included on the first disc, the first of which is Camp Krusty, which to be honest was an episode that in my childhood I used to actually skip over. I never really liked this episode. But over time, as I've gotten more mature, it's become a lot more apparent and certainly a lot more funny. The short of the episode is that Bart and Lisa are sent to a summer camp for Krusty the Clown, and basically the summer camp is more of a child slavery kind of thing, where Bart and Lisa and a bunch of other kids are forced into making Krusty the Clown merchandise over the summer, only for Krusty to actually arrive at the camp and discover this exploit. And it's great to see Bart actually as an authority figure taking over the camp. That was definitely the highlight of this episode, along with Homer actually bettering himself both physically and mentally. He actually loses some weight, grows some hair surprisingly, only for that to all go away as soon as he sees a news report with Bart having taken over Camp Krusty. That was for sure my favourite moment from this episode. Next up is A Streetcar Named Marge, which is a great Marge-themed episode in particular, where Marge lands the main role in the stage production A Streetcar Named Desire. And with this, Homer is basically very unsupportive of Marge's role in this play and doesn't take it seriously at all, which fuels the fire for Marge's acting talent, which is overall fascinating to watch. and her sudden hatred for Homer's hooliganism, as it would be, really seems to bring it home just how violent she becomes in this role. And it's quite fascinating to see that unfold throughout the episode. And there's a great B plot as well, where with Marge taking these acting lessons and doing the pre-production for the stage play, Maggie actually has to go into daycare, and there's a great parody of The Great Escape with Maggie in this episode, which I absolutely love. Next up is Homer the Heretic, which is probably one of my all-time favourite Simpsons episodes, in all fairness, where with this episode in particular, it's more of a simplistic moral at the end of the day, where Homer frowns upon those and looks down upon those that have religious faith. And so rather than going to church every Sunday on the grounds that he finds it boring, he decides to worship God from the comfort of his own home, which involves sleeping in on Sundays, rocking out in his underwear, the usual spiel, and then unexpectedly Homer burns down the family home and is saved by those that he actually frowned upon. So it's a very simplistic moral in that sense, and to be fair, I always found it to be an episode that was a little bit preachy, but each to their own, I suppose. And the sort of added message at the very end where Homer actually meets God, so to speak, that's one of my favourite moments in all of The Simpsons. And I always love the extra detail that God actually has five digits on his hand rather than 4 in The Simpsons. I always thought that was a neat touch. Another episode dealing with personal morals is Lisa the Beauty Queen, where after a caricature portrays Lisa as being extremely ugly, Lisa takes this personally, only for Homer to try and boost her confidence by entering her into a beauty pageant, only for this pageant to be advertising the usage of cigarettes, which is something that Lisa personally disagrees with. Moving on to disc 2, we have Treehouse of Horror 3, which is definitely one of the more memorable Treehouse of Horror episodes for me personally. So this one consists of Clown Without Pity, where a Krusty the Clown, a doll, basically turns on Homer, which is supposed to be an innocent child's toy, but it's set to evil, which is one of my favourite sort of punchlines for a Treehouse of Horror skit. King Homer, which is a parody of the 1933 King Kong original movie, and Dial Z for Zombies, where Bart and Lisa unintentionally raise the dead when trying to revive the deceased cat Snowball. Itchy and Scratchy, the movie, where during a school parents' evening, Marge and Homer learn just how despicable Bart's behaviour really is, and even while they're away, he is still misbehaving. So Homer actually makes a punishment stick that Bart can never ever see the Itchy and Scratchy movie. He forbids it, which is supposed to be every child's ultimate movie dream, but Homer makes it stick that Bart will never ever see it. Next up is Marge Gets a Job, where Marge actually gets a job working with Homer at the nuclear power plant, only for Mr. Burns to start lusting after her, which is really strange. But it's just so weird to see how jealous he becomes as he realizes that Marge is actually married to Homer. A weird episode that, to be honest, I don't really have too much of a recollection of. Next up is New Kid on the Block, where we actually are introduced to a love interest for Bart, which is a great concept, and it's something that has been done multiple times, but I think this is the best episode that portrays it. And it's just such a shame that some of the characters in this episode don't really recur after this episode, which is a shame, but this episode in particular features one of my favourite moments where he thinks he's finally caught the person that's been prank calling him for all those years, where in the earlier episodes, both Bart and sometimes Lisa as well actually would prank call Moe's Tavern. Next up is Mr. Plow, a fan favourite and probably in my top 10 favourite episodes of The Simpsons of all time. And yeah, Mr. Plow is pretty basic as far as the plot goes. It's just Homer opening his own plow service called Mr. Plow during the winter months, only for this to start a conflict with Barney, who opens a rival kind of ploughing business called the Plow King. And last up for Disc 2 is a flashback episode called Lisa's First Word, which gives us a little bit of backstory for both Bart and Lisa, which is a great episode overall, even if in some of the much later episodes there's a lot of conflict and mismatched sort of exposition when it comes to these flashback episodes. But with The Simpsons, at this point in time, with 32 seasons I think we're on now at this point in time, it's so non-linear, it just really doesn't matter at this point, I suppose. Moving on to Disc 3, we have Homer's Triple Bypass, which is another episode where Homer has a very close encounter with death. It always makes me think of the season 2 episode with the poisonous fish. But with this episode, it's basically just Homer struggling with a heart condition after he has a heart attack, leaving him basically on death's doorstep, only for Dr. Nick, of all characters, to actually save Homer's life due to how expensive it is for Homer to have a proper surgery. And overall, this episode is very touching, especially for the Lisa moments. Next up is an episode written by Conan O'Brien, which is for sure one of the fan favorite episodes, and that's Marge versus the Monorail, where a con man called Lyle Lanley scams the entirety of Springfield to build a monorail that's just completely faulty and just all look and no show. This episode has some great guest spots in here in particular, and is a great episode for Homer basically saving the day even under such extreme circumstances. Next up is Selma's Choice, which is quite an interesting episode to flesh out the character of Selma and both of Marge's sisters, really, since the only sort of character development they have, which is sort of core to their character, is just the simple fact that they hate Homer and vice versa. But with this episode, it really does humanize Selma's character in particular, having taken both Lisa and Bart on a day out to Duff Gardens. It really shows her sort of maternal side and how she wants to inevitably have a child, but she's conflicted with whether or not it's too late to do so, which is overall quite an interesting theme for a Simpsons episode. Next up is Brother from the Same Planet, where both Bart and Homer have this very bizarre rivalry, where both Bart and Homer decide to get a new either fatherly figure or new son sort of figure, with Bart going for a sort of successful man called Tom, and Homer having a young boy called Peppy that he feels pity for. And so it's quite interesting to see the conflict brew up over the course of the episode, only to explode in a bizarre fist fight between both Homer and Tom, one of my personal favourites from this season. Next up is I Love Lisa, where Ralph actually develops a crush on Lisa of all characters, and this, as far as a character development episode goes for Ralph, is one of my absolute favourites. I always just instantly think of the card that he gets for Lisa with the I choose you. Always adorable and always good-hearted, even if Ralph isn't exactly the most popular among the boys, but overall a heartfelt episode that does end in a very heartwarming way. And last up for disc 3 is Duffless, where Homer is caught behind the wheel, intoxicated, having visited the Duff Brewery, and so he's suspended for driving and also decides to go 30 days without drinking beer. For disc 4, first up is Last Exit to Springfield, where Homer becomes a union leader striking for the right for the power plant to have a dental plan after it's been removed, and this only becomes more apparent for Homer when Lisa requires braces. Next up is So It's Come to This, a Simpsons clip show where Bart accidentally puts Homer in hospital, and the rest of the episode is just your generic clip show kind of reflections. The front, where Bart and Lisa write an Itchy and Scratchy short using Grandpa Simpson's name, and when it wins an award, Grandpa is just absolutely disgusted by what his name is attached to, and that's definitely one of my favourite Grandpa episodes for sure, one of the best moments for him as a character. Whacking Day, which is an episode that always really just sort of passes me by. It's not really an episode that I ever really think of when it comes to The Simpsons, but the only sort of redeeming quality of this episode really is just a guest spot for Barry White. I love that sing-along at the very end of the episode, just about leaving the snakes alone, and just overall a decent enough episode that just kind of seems to have slipped under the radar for me personally. Next up is Marge in Chains, where Marge accidentally shoplifts from the Quickie Mart, and so she is full-on accused, basically, and it's even taken to trial, which is overall quite an interesting Marge episode, just to see how very quickly this can actually escalate for someone that is obviously proven to be such an innocent character. And then finally for this season we have Krusty Gets Cancelled, where a show called Gabbo, about a little sort of ventriloquist doll, pushes Krusty the Clown off the air out of basically popularity through ratings. And so Bart and Lisa, basically hating Gabbo, do everything they can to try and get Krusty the Clown back on the air, and so they create a comeback special for Krusty the Clown, which seems to work in his favour. And so that is going to do it for my review of The Simpsons Season 4 on DVD. Overall, as far as the season goes, I may be slightly biased in my opinions here and there, but I personally feel this is some of the best episodes of the show. As far as classics go, overall, over the entire span of the show's lifetime, and with episodes like Mr. Plow, Trios of Horror 3, Marge vs. the Monorail, I definitely feel those are some of the more popular episodes, and episodes that really do sort of jump to mind whenever you think of The Simpsons. So if you did enjoy this video, please do leave a like down below. I'll be sure to try and upload Simpsons reviews a little bit more often, since there's been possibly about a 3-year hiatus between my review of Season 3 and now Season 4. So I'll try and get these reviews a little bit more frequently uploaded as it would be. So if you did enjoy, please do leave a like, comment below. What is your favourite episode from The Simpsons Season 4? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And as ever, please do subscribe for more content coming soon. Thanks for watching.
Are you threatening me?